Hi, I'm Erin Palmer, Team Rayceen Productions co-host and moderator.
And hi, I'm Kim R. Ford, Team Rayceen Productions, co-host and moderator.
Joining us is Wendy Hamilton. Hello, Wendy.
Hello, Erin. How are you? Hi, Kim. Hi, Czar Rayceen Show. I'm so excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. Thanks for joining us. Before we talk about your 2024 primary election campaign to be the DC Shadow Senator, tell us a little bit about your background and who you are.
Okay, great. How much time do we have? No, I'm kidding. So I'm Wendy Hamilton. I am an ANC commissioner in the Great Ward 8 in the Bellevue section of Ward 8, which is South Capitol Street. A lot of times we get forgotten about. People talk about Anacostia and Congress Heights, but Bellevue is a part of Ward 8 too. That's another video. And so I'm proud to be a resident of Ward 8 and just a resident of Washington, D.C. I'm originally from Ohio, though, a small town on the Ohio River called Portsmouth, Ohio. I came here at 17 years old, a whole lot of years ago, to attend Howard University, fell in love with the city, and have been here ever since. I mean, even my first year summer at Howard, I told Mom, I'm not coming home. I like it here. I'm going to find a job. And much to her chagrin, she was looking forward to me coming and, telling her all about the big city. I found me a job at the National Zoo. You couldn't tell me anything. So have been in the city, have worked in education, which was my undergraduate degree, later went on to Howard School of Divinity. Howard was so nice, I went twice and got my Master of Religious Studies. So I am an ordained minister. I've worked in chaplaincy and pastoral care, as an interim pastor. So my life track has been education and ministry, but also a little bit of public service got in there all of a sudden because social justice is a passion of mine. And I feel like public service is sacred service. So I started helping out with different local campaigns, got a chance to help out on a national campaign. And lo and behold, somehow I wound up becoming a candidate myself. So that's a little bit about me. And my day job, last thing I'll say, I love kids, I love people, and I just love helping people. So my day job actually is in DC Public Schools. I work as a truancy and attendance counselor, and I get the chance to help students and families overcome obstacles that are preventing their students from attending school successfully. And that work has endeared me to DC in a way that I don't think any of my other, work has, from the standpoint of being able to really get to know the city from a bird's eye view, the families, the struggles, the resources, and things that are available and maybe not available to our families in the city. So I'm a non-native Washingtonian. Yes.
Thank you, Reverend Wendy. We love hearing about candidate backgrounds and how you spend your time and what motivates you in your quest for public service. And I'm wondering if you can tell our viewers about why you want to be one of DC's 2 shadow senators and why you decided to run this year and this election cycle.
Well, as I said, public service has become a passion of mine because I find it, a worthy avenue of being able to serve and to help and to get people what they need. And it's similar to ministry, looking out for the least of these, giving a voice to the voiceless. So it kind of correlated with what I was already doing sort of from a ministry standpoint. But here in DC, like I said, with the families that I work with the constituents that I serve, in the ANC, I just felt like in many ways, we're being underserved when it comes to our representation and our voice, particularly as it pertains to DC statehood. DC statehood is something that is a passion of mine, having come from a state, knowing what it's like to have representation, a governor and House representatives and state senators. And, we can take something like that for granted. But when you come to a city where folks have never had that experience, you want to be able to share that and help educate people around why it's so important that we have a voice at the table when it comes to what we need and what we want. So that's what got me involved in public service. For those who may not know, I actually ran for office a couple of years ago because, again, I saw an opportunity to provide what I feel like is the type of leadership and representation that Washington, D.C. deserves as we move forward into our next chapters. And so I decided to run for the shadow senator role over the summer, as I watched conservatives in Congress, in the House in particular, usurp the authority of DC voters' voices and try to make changes in our laws and, in our policies that we've already voted people into office to do for us. We don't need anyone outside of the district making decisions or making judgment calls about what DC needs and doesn't need. If you've not spent any time in the city, nor do you care about anyone in the city, you're merely trying to score political points on the backs of our city. And that, for me, pushed me over the edge, if you will, in terms of what can I do? When I ran before, it was a great run. I did not win necessarily, but I was able to get out there and serve in a way that I felt was meaningful. And once the race was over, that energy was still there. And I looked for ways to redirect it. Sometimes people will run for office and then they don't run anymore and you don't see them. And I'm like, where'd you go? The issues are still there. So once I recovered, because running for office takes more than a notion. Once I recovered, I looked for ways to redirect that energy to serve Washington, and felt somewhat called in this direction toward the shadow senator role.
Can you tell us a
Well,
little bit more about what this role is, and how it's different from other elected offices in DC?
I get that question a lot. Sure, I can. So the shadow senator role, just to break it down in like sort of the basic layman's terms, it is the senator role without representation, without the actual title, if you will. That's why it's the shadow senator role. Without statehood, we do not have Senate representation. We do have Delegate Norton. She's in the House. She's our non-voting delegate, but we do have her presence in the House. We have no presence in the Senate. And so what we did was we established, during home rule, we established and created a shadow delegation. There's a shadow representative and 2 shadow senator roles that essentially would become the official roles once we get statehood. And so the role then of the shadow delegation is to advocate for statehood so that we can come out of the shadow and be the actual Senate and representatives that we deserve once we become the 51st state.
Great. So what are your top 3 issues?
Well, let's just say that, of course, because the shadow senator role is mainly about statehood. Statehood is the umbrella issue because everything that we're dealing with policy-wise in DC can be addressed and fall under the umbrella of statehood. If you see the graphic there, women's rights and what's happening with women's reproductive rights and what we can do or not do regarding that, LGBTQIA+ rights, student debt, racial justice, voting rights, the environment, public safety, all of these are related to our lack of statehood. All of these are at stake for us in terms of what's going to happen with them without having statehood. So statehood is the biggest issue. The shadow senator really has one job, and that is to advocate for statehood. But the reason why we're advocating is because there are so many other issues that are tied directly into our lack of having statehood. And so for me, there isn't an issue really that we can talk about that doesn't fall under the umbrella of us needing DC statehood.
That's one issue, Wendy. It's all encompassing, but what are some of the other issues that you're working on?
Well, employment, UBI is a big policy for me. I really want to see a measure of guaranteed basic income brought to the district. So that's something that I would, participate in as far as conversations are concerned. Vocational education is another part of my platform. I really feel like, especially in working with the schools, that there's something that I want to see done for some of our kids who may not take the college track, and that's okay. I'd love to see vocational education brought back. So that's, an area of policy that I would want to work on. And certainly, women's issues. I mean, that to me is the biggest, one of the driving forces for me running, because I feel like, again, without statehood, women are at greater risk than, many other groups. And so I feel like I want to really champion women's issues as well. So all of what I just, talked about previously, yes, they fall under, the statehood umbrella, but they're individually important to me as well. And it's kind of what drove me to run for this position in the first place.
Wendy, why are you the best choice for voters?
Because I have the passion, because I feel like a transparency to me and an authenticity to me that hopefully translates to the voters when they think about what type of representation they would want to have on the Hill. I have a track record that voters can look at and see where I have been of service, where I have been successful in defending the rights of those who, feel underrepresented, who feel voiceless. I really think that I'm not a politician. Politics has gotten very uninspiring. I mean, it's never been terribly inspiring, but these days it really has become very transactional, very lackluster. And I think folks have become apathetic as a result. I don't think that we remember what it can be like to have someone who is genuinely of the people, for the people, and by the people. I'm in politics, but I'm not a politician. I'm a mama, I'm a minister. I'm not just trying to represent you. I am you. I'm a new grandmother. I've got a 3-year-old grandson. I'm running for him. I want him to have a different DC experience. And so I believe I'm the best candidate because not only do I have the track record of service and, and just who I am as a person, but I'm not running for a title. I'm running to do the work.
Great. So kind of brass tacks. When does voting begin?
So glad you asked. January. June 4th is the actual primary day, but that's the last day of the primary. Voting actually begins. We are an automatic mail-in ballot. This year we have the same automatic mail-in system. So ballots begin to go in the mail April 29th, I think, which is not very far off. So ballots will start coming out at the end of April. And if you don't, send in your mail-in ballots, of course, you can go. Early voting will start at the end of May. And then the primary is actually June 4th. It's a little earlier this year. We usually go a little later into June. This year, they've moved it up a couple of weeks. So June 4th is actually our primary day for this year.
Thank you. That's good information for our viewers. Pay attention to ballots that are mailed to your residence and early voting and actual election day. Wendy, please tell our viewers how they can learn more about you and how to support your campaign.
Well, of course, you can go to revwendyforsenate.com and you can check out the information there. It also talks about, what a shadow senator is. It shows you some of the things that I've talked about that I've been involved in. It kind of lists out some of the policies that are important to me and that I'd like to champion in the shadow senator role. And I'm also on all social media. These days, if you're running for office, you have to be on social media. They got me dancing on TikTok. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, or X, or whatever it is this week, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can find me on all the social media platforms at Rev Wendy Hamilton. They're all pretty much the same handle, except Twitter is Rev Wendy 3. But those are the places where you can, just check my record. I can sit up here and tell you all day what I'd like to do and what I plan to do, but I also want you to go look at what I've done. I want to run on what I've done. Don't just take me at my word. Check me, find out that, what I'm saying actually matches what I'm doing. And I encourage you to do that for any candidate that's running for office. It's time out for us putting people in, strictly because of their name or because they have been there for a long time. This is an open race this time. The incumbent, Michael Brown, that I was challenging, announced recently that he was not going to be running again. And so this became an open seat. And while there are a number of other candidates that have joined the race, I still feel like I'm the best candidate in the race. And that's what I'm running to do. And I'm running to win on that. And I'll hold my record up to anyone, and particularly when it comes to caring about this city and the fight for DC statehood. I've been in it, and I'm ready to stay in it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Reverend Wendy. Viewers, please look in the description for links. And again, thank you so much for your time and talking about your campaign. We wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you. Like I said earlier, coming on Rayceen show is a rite of passage for anybody who wants to run for office in DC. So I thank you for the invitation. And please, voters, look me up, RevWendyForSenate.com. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
To those watching, please follow Team Rayceen on social media and subscribe to the Team Rayceen YouTube channel.
And viewers, thank you for watching.